Today, there are more than 35 million people living in the United States who are 65 or older. That number is expected to double in the next 20 years. Nearly 25% of America's elderly live in rural and small-town communities. For the most part, these seniors live on modest incomes. What wealth they have is often tied up in equity. 85% of them own their own homes. It's difficult then for many rural seniors to keep up with housing costs, which seems to claim an ever-growing percentage of monthly income. Due to a housing gap in many rural communities, when elderly residents reach the point where they can no longer take care of their homes on their own, they face a stark set of options: move in with family or move to a nursing home. In either case, these seniors may find they have to move to another town or another city to access the housing they need. When this forced exodus happens, it's not just bad for the individual, but for the town as a whole. As one rural housing organizer put it, when seniors have to move away, they take their bank accounts, their shopping lists, their church donations, and their leadership with them. For many rural seniors, whether they rent or own their current home, cooperative housing can provide a new alternative that's both appealing and affordable. The structure of the cooperative itself can help to keep elderly residents engaged, and by extension, more mentally and physically fit. Co-ops also provide some of the equity and tax benefits of traditional home ownership, along with services that help seniors continue to live independently. In 2012, the Cooperative Development Foundation hosted a forum on cooperative solutions for affordable rural and senior housing in Washington, D.C. This event showcased innovative housing co-ops that provide appropriate, affordable housing for rural seniors, enabling them to remain in the communities where they're so deeply rooted. But what exactly is a housing co-op? When people join together to democratically own or control the housing and/or land where they live, that's a housing cooperative. These co-ops are governed under the principle of one vote per member household, and cooperative boards are elected by their residents. Although housing co-ops remain a well-kept secret across much of the United States, they're not new to this country. The first housing co-ops were formed in New York City in the late 1800s, and today, more than 1 million U.S. families of all income levels and ages live in homes owned and operated through cooperative associations. In one small community in rural Wisconsin, low-income seniors banded together to create a new housing co-op, enabling them to live out their final years in their hometown. Speaking at the Cooperative Housing Forum, Shar Thompson, who heads Wisconsin's Foundation for Rural Housing, explained the co-op this way.
What resulted from all these meetings is what we call a small hybrid cooperative. The basic idea is that they own their home, and in this case it's 5 homes, on land that they as members of the co-op own. So it's best of both worlds in many ways.
Because the co-op is located in the middle of town, it's easy for residents to get around, with the grocery store, library, community center, and hospital all in easy walking distance. And by installing efficient Energy Star homes and sharing in the cost of services such as mowing and snow removal, residents have kept their monthly housing expenses to a minimum. Pat Townsend was one of the first to join the new co-op. As a widow, she had struggled with the upkeep of her large home out in the country.
I had no intention of moving, although I probably should have. And then Carol Johnson, who was at Department of Aging, said, "I've got just the thing for you." And it absolutely was a perfect answer for me. So here I am 6 years later and loving every minute of it.
The Housing Forum also highlighted a trend that's gaining traction around the country: the conversion of mobile home parks into housing cooperatives. Mobile homes are now referred to more commonly as manufactured homes because they're built in a factory and then installed on site. Unlike in the past, today's manufactured housing can be very attractive, well-made, economical, and energy efficient, providing an excellent housing option for rural seniors. Unfortunately, many residents of mobile home parks don't own the land under their trailers. Instead, they rent the land and live at the mercy of an investor owner who can choose to sell the park's real estate and evict all of its residents at a moment's notice. Mike Sloss is determined to change that. Sloss manages the lending side of ROC USA, short for Resident-Owned Communities, which converts mobile home parks into housing cooperatives on a national scale, thereby creating a sustainable, replicable model of low-income home ownership for both seniors and young families.
So we know from the experience in the state of New Hampshire, there's been over $200 million of land acquisition financing put into those communities, that this economic proposition that we're talking about works for low-income homeowners.
In New Hampshire, where they've been doing this since the 1980s, they've converted a total of 100 mobile home parks to co-op ownership. For Lois Paris, who lives in the small town of Belmont, New Hampshire, the best thing about living in a resident-owned community is this.
Knowing, number one, that it's ours to keep, we won't ever have to be displaced, and that we control what happens in the community. It's mind-settling.
In addition, to address the energy inefficiency of so many older mobile home units, a number of rural electric co-ops have begun offering affordable loans to help families and seniors pay for much-needed upgrades. In South Carolina alone, rural electric co-ops expect their loan program to save consumers $270 million a year in reduced utility costs. If presented with a better, more affordable alternative, many rural seniors would willingly move from their existing homes. A housing cooperative could provide just such an option, enabling these elderly residents to live out the remainder of their lives with dignity in the communities where they continue to make such an invaluable contribution. You'll be hearing more about these initiatives soon, so please stay tuned. In the meantime, visit cdf.coop/affordable housing to learn more.